As NATO celebrates its 70th anniversary in 2019, burden sharing remains a pressing conversation within the alliance. With the reemergence to great power competition and perennial security concerns, European countries, the United States and Canada are thinking through how to reinvest in their shared security. As defence spending remains in the news, questions arise about the responsibility of allies to contribute to European security and the capabilities needed to do so. In particular, what role should key allies like Germany, as the largest economy in Europe, play as a leader in NATO? And how should that be matched by increased resources? To help answer these questions, the Atlantic Council convened a town hall discussion in Berlin. The event brought together German and American voices for a discussion on how the alliance can tackle these issues, moving beyond the headlines on 2% and addressing NATO defence spending.
Well, the NATO alliance has a lot to celebrate. 70 years is no small achievement, and I think most of the military alliances around the world only wish that they could have lasted 70 years. Most of them in the history books now, we find they last a couple of decades. So it's a remarkable achievement. At the same time, though, we have a NATO alliance that's really struggling. It's struggling with an internal dynamic where there's a lot of disagreements among the members right now and a lot of friction, particularly over this issue of burden sharing. But also externally, there are challenges kind of coming at NATO from all sides, from the east, from the west, from the north, from the south. And so the alliance finds itself now struggling to rapidly develop new capabilities and tools while it's trying to grapple with these internal divisions and spats.
And then you can add the kind of normal challenges we have as resources. Are the countries spending enough to make NATO in the military term capable? And are the countries willing to put enough political power to make NATO credible?
The 2% politically and economically, it's a push. It's probably necessary because actually we were sleepwalking during the 1990s. We took our peace and security for granted, and that was blown out of the water over the past several years, not just because of Russia, but what's happening in the Middle East, what's happening actually all over the world.
Yeah, I mean, it would be great if all countries lived up to their commitment, because that would also be a very political, signal to everybody that we're really serious about this. But then at the same time, it matters a whole lot more whether a country like Germany goes to 2%, or whether a small country does it. A small country might go to 2%, but the overall contribution to European security as a whole might still be fairly limited. So I would hold the larger countries, stricter to the 2% metric than the smaller ones, because it's the 4 or 5 bigger European countries for whom this metric really is decisive, and which then, also makes a big difference at the European scale. So yes, of course, nominally everything's equal in NATO, but when it comes to actual burden sharing and actual responsibility, some countries are more equal than others.
NATO, I mean, that's a lesson of the history. NATO is as strong as the countries make it. It sounds a bit simple, but in the end, that's the essence of NATO. Do we believe in it? Do we all believe that we will stand up for each other as allies or not? And if there's the slightest doubt inside the alliance that we can see overall political message and the overall military deterrence message. And that's up to each country, actually, to make NATO credible by its political commitment and also by its military commitment. And that includes also burden sharing and defense spending.
The Germans will get there step by step, very small steps, sometimes even homeopathic doses, but they will get there. But the collateral damage that we do in the same time to our allies and to NATO is under-reflected and will just happen.
Germany can motivate others, can be kind of model to follow. What we also have to keep in mind is Germany is very closely cooperating with other countries in the military domain. So you have lots of military integration, interaction, which means if Germany is weak, if Germany is not doing enough, is not spending enough, it has a repercussion not only on Germany's readiness capacity to act, but also on all the other countries who decided to integrate their armed forces with Germany. So it's a bigger picture of what Germany means.
I think NATO is fundamentally a very, very good thing. It is not only a defensive alliance, but a community of nations who think and act, to the most part, alike, who share fundamental values, among them the rule of law, the respect for individual rights, and democracy. And I think that this is incredibly good, because it is, in a political sense, values which bind not only people but nations together.